Coming home for the new year, my cousin showed us his phone wallpaper. "This is my girlfriend, the mayor's daughter. I'll bring her to meet you all when I have time." Then he slammed a Rolls-Royce key onto the table. "Cousin, what's the use of all that studying? In the end, you're still just working for someone else, aren't you?" What a coincidence, both his Rolls-Royce and girlfriend are actually mine. I privately messaged Grace, "When did you secretly get another boyfriend behind my back?" Grace sent a string of question marks in reply. "Wait there, I'm coming to find you right now. I want to see who dares to impersonate my boyfriend." On the second day of the Lunar New Year, our whole family went to visit my cousin's house. After a few drinks, his face turned red. "This is Evian mineral water, over 200 yuan a bottle drink. As much as you like, I bought too much last time and couldn't finish it all." My cousin pushed several bottles of water toward us and waved his hand generously. The relatives beside them clicked their tongues in amazement, taking the water bottle and examining it repeatedly. 200, what kind of water costs that much? Is it made of gold? Uncle curled his lips and said disdainfully, "This isn't ordinary water. It can treat high blood sugar, and it's imported from abroad. If it weren't for my son, you wouldn't get to taste such fine stuff." Last year, Uncle still asked me to find a job for my cousin, and this year, he is already making big money. I remember Brian's assistant told me they arranged a security guard position for him. How much could he possibly earn as a security guard to afford such expensive mineral water? I stayed silent, picked up a bottle of water to examine it was genuine. I happened to have bought this brand at home too, but I found the taste poor. So, after drinking just 2 bottles, I tossed the rest in the garage. Perhaps he just likes his brand itself, not my place to comment on others' spending habits. Someone quickly flattered him, putting on a smiling face. "Julian has really made it big. Must be earning a fortune out there. Look at these high-end things he is using." Julian is the most accomplished among our generation. My cousin glanced at me and said with feigned nonchalance, "Not bad, just made a few $100 million. As he spoke, he waved his phone in front of everyone. My girlfriend, unfortunately, she couldn't come home with me this year. Due to some matters, I'll introduce her to you all when we have time. The young woman in the photo was radiant with youth and dressed exquisitely, drawing envious glances from everyone. I froze for a moment. Wasn't this my girlfriend Grace? A relative suddenly gasped, "I think I've seen her somewhere before. Isn't she the mayor's daughter?" "Julian, you're not lying to us, are you?" Julian got anxious and opened his phone. "Look at the Valentine's Day post she shared on her boyfriend." Everyone hurried to check. I glanced at it and was speechless too. Last Valentine's Day, Grace was so thrilled with my gift that she made a special Weibo post to show off our love. Caption, "Thank you, my dear Adrian." Both my cousin and I share the surname Ford. Little did I know this would give him the perfect opportunity to pass off fish eyes for pearls. I raised my hand to snap a photo and sent it to Grace, teasing her with a text. "Did you secretly have another boyfriend behind my back?" Within 2 minutes, Grace sent a message. "What the hell? I just had a meal with my parents. How did I suddenly get a boyfriend?" "Wait right there. I'm coming to find you. Let me see who dares to impersonate my boyfriend." Julian was still rambling on showing off his wealth in front of everyone. "I'll take you all to my newly purchased estate later. I've had someone reserve a spot. We'll have our New Year's Eve dinner there tonight." He patted my shoulder, deliberately raising his voice. "Cousin, you've been working like a dog all year long. Now that you're finally home for the holidays, make sure to take this chance to relax properly. When we were kids, Adrian's grades were better than Julian's. Who would he thought Julian would turn out to be the more successful one. Yeah, what's the use of reading so many books? You still end up working for others in the end." These people were subtly belittling me in their words, but I couldn't be bothered to respond. In the business world, I've seen plenty of such people who fawn over the strong and bully the weak. But judging by my cousin's tone, it seems he still holds a grudge over me not helping him find a job back then. At that time, I was starting a business with classmates in Beijing when my uncle called and asked me to find a good job for my cousin. But my cousin only had a junior high school education and hadn't focused on learning any skills during vocational school. What kind of job could I possibly find for him? Back then, I did consider arranging a position for him in the company. But I knew my cousin's nature all too well. If he found out about our relationship, he'd likely act like a fox borrowing the tiger's, my flaunting privileges everywhere. But after all, we're family. I couldn't not help. So at the time, I openly refused Uncle's request, but then secretly had Assistant Brian arrange his employment. I specifically instructed Assistant Brian not to reveal my involvement. I thought once he got the job, the matter would be over, but I never expected him to still remember it. I could only smile helplessly, not wanting to expose him in front of the relatives, so I let it go. Unexpectedly, seeing that I didn't react, Julian became even more brazen. "Cousin, I heard you started a business. Before, why hasn't there been any follow-up? Could it be that you lost all the family's money and are too embarrassed to say? I heard Uncle is planning to sell his house recently. Could it be because he needs to cover your losses? If you tell me what is up, I might be in a good enough mood to lend you some money." I rolled my eyes internally and scooted over slightly. Over the years, I already built my own successful career with several of my companies going public. As a billionaire CEO, I naturally understood the wisdom of not flaunting one's wealth. Besides, even if I told them, they'd probably think I was just bragging. My parents sold their house because they're planning to move in with me and wanted to settle their property here. This winter, I already bought them an ocean view villa in Sanya, just waiting for them to vacation there after the new year. Of course, Julian wouldn't believe any of this, even if I said it. I poured Julian a glass of wine and said calmly, "Thanks for your concern, cousin, but I'm not short on money." Rejected by me, a flicker of disdain crossed Julian's face, thinking I was just putting on airs. He pulled out the car keys from his pocket and slapped them on the table. "Let us go. We're having New Year's Eve dinner in my newly acquired Tourmaline Manor. I'll show you all how the other half lives." The car keys looked somewhat familiar, but I just glanced at them and didn't pay much attention. Everyone crowded around Julian as they headed out, showering him with flattery while pushing me to the very back. When we reached the ground floor and I saw that parked orange Rolls-Royce, I froze for a moment. The relatives had already started their flattery. "Julian is truly a young achiever. Uncle Eric, you're so blessed to have such a successful son." Uncle puffed up with pride, straightening his back while giving me a sidelong glance. "What is the use of all that book learning? Making real money is what counts." I didn't speak, frowning as I stared at the license plate. "Was this Rolls-Royce the one for my garage?" I thought the color was too flashy, so after driving it a few times, I couldn't be bothered with it anymore. It's been gathering dust in the garage ever since. How did it become Julian's car? I was about to speak up when my relatives had already gotten into the car, so I had to keep quiet and send a message to Assistant Brian instead. During the New Year holiday, I had given Assistant Brian a 7-day break, so he didn't reply to me. Right away, left with no choice, I got in the car with my family first. As the car door closed, I glanced at the small trinket hanging inside. This was indeed my car. Adrian didn't second uncle say he wanted to sell the house. Perfect timing. I've been thinking of investing in real estate lately. Why don't you consider selling it to me? I could tell he was bluffing about his real estate investments the moment I saw this car. I forced a smile and replied, "How much are you planning to pay, cousin?" After all, the money from selling the house was just a drop in the bucket for my family. For the sake of family ties, I wouldn't mind giving him a 20 discount. Little did I expect that while I was mentally calculating giving him a discount, Julian would make an exorbitant demand. "How about 300,000? I heard from the agent that second uncle is in a hurry to sell, so I won't haggle with you. We're family after all. I'll take the loss and buy it at a higher price." I froze for a moment, nearly laughing in disbelief. My house is in the city center, and it's even in a school district. At current market prices, it's worth at least $3 million. He actually dared to offer 300,000. I want to give him a 20 discount, but he turned around and tried to get it for 90 off. The price is ridiculously low. I gave him a half smile, took out my phone, and searched the market price right in front of him. Not a single apartment in this complex goes for less than $2 million. We're family. The price you're offering is downright predatory. Julian's face darkened as he flicked his cigarette but into the car. "The housing market is sluggish right now. The only reason I'm willing to spend money on your house is out of consideration for our family ties. Don't be ungrateful." I watched as the cigarette burned a hole in the leather seat and frowned but remained silent. Seeing that I wasn't responding, Julian turned his fire towards my parents. "Uncle, I only offer to help because I saw your family struggling to the point of selling your home. Look at Adrian's attitude. What kind of response is this?" My parents have been kind-hearted their whole lives and didn't want to cause tension with relatives during the new year. They replied awkwardly, "Julian, our family really doesn't need this money. Let us talk about selling the house another time." Uncle grew displeased and retorted to my mother, "Do you think you're getting the short end of the stick? My son told me the internet industry isn't doing well these days. Has Adrian lost his job? Sell the house to us, and I'll have Julian arrange a job for him as compensation. That should be fair enough, right?" Every word dripped with contempt for me. Even my mother, usually so patient, couldn't hold back her voice, turning icy. "Thank you for your concern, big brother, but our Adrian is doing just fine and his company is thriving." Uncle just thought she was bluffing and still advised her to sell the house. I was about to say something when my phone suddenly buzzed with a message from Brian's assistant. He had guests at home and couldn't call, so he sent me a long text explaining what had happened recently. Turns out, although I'd previously said not to let Julian know, I was the one who arranged the job for him. But Brian's assistant thought, after all, Julian is my relative, and the boss's relative shouldn't be offended. Not only did he arrange for Julian to be the head of security, but he also gave him special privileges at work. Seeing this, the company employees assumed Julian's backer was Brian's assistant, so they gave him preferential treatment everywhere. Coincidentally, during the new year, our original security guards and servants were on holiday, so he was transferred here to handle security matters. To think he had the audacity to take advantage of his position and secretly drive my Rolls-Royce out of the garage just to show off. Those bottles of Evian water at his place were also taken from my stock. President, the Bishi Manor is also under your name. I've already called Manager Wu, the person in charge there, and he LL arranged everything for you. I raised an eyebrow at the last text message who would be thought that the manor Julian mentioned was also mine. I bought so many properties over the years that I'd forgotten about this estate in my hometown. Looking up, I saw a wrought iron gate ahead with people already waiting at the entrance. Julian slapped the steering wheel. We're at the estate, let us get out. As soon as he got out of the car, the person waiting at the door came forward to greet him. Hello, I'm Manager Wu, the person in charge of the Bishi estate. Before he could finish speaking, Julian had already shaken his hand. I know Assistant Brian told me, let us go inside. Manager Wu's face flashed with momentary confusion before comprehension dawned, and he hastily nodded to lead the group inside. Watching from behind, I realized Manager Wu had mistaken Julian for me, the person Brian's assistant had mentioned. Seeing my relatives fawning over Julian, I swallowed the words on the tip of my tongue. I was curious to see what kind of performance Julian had prepared for today. My mother seemed to have some recollection of this place. She tugged at my sleeve and whispered quietly, Son, isn't this the villa you mentioned before, the one you bought for your father and me to live in? I nodded. That was indeed the case. Though after purchasing it, my parents had only glanced at the photos and refused to move and saying it was too far from the city center and lacked human warmth. At this thought, I patted my mother's hand. If you don't like it here, I'll buy you a better place later. Somehow Julian in front overheard this and turned back to sneer. Adrian, you're getting better and better at boasting, not afraid of being exposed, daring to say anything. Can you even afford this manor? You're about to lose your own house and have to sell it, yet you're still bragging about buying a better one while looking down on my estate. A relative quickly chimed in, sneering and spitting in disdain. I think he's just jealous of you, seeing how successful you become. He's green with envy. That's right, Adrian. How have you become like this? All that education just made you more petty and shameless. Listening to everyone belittle me, Julian waved his hand smugly. Making money inevitably invites envy. Adrian, acting this way is only natural. My parents couldn't bear it any longer and wanted to speak up for me, but I stopped them. This was actually a good opportunity. My parents had always been soft-hearted, constantly leaving room for those fawning relatives who worshipped the rising sun and spurned the setting one. I wanted them to come live with me for a long time, but they were nostalgic and reluctant to leave their relatives in our hometown. It took me several attempts to finally persuade them. These relatives have always been petty and opportunistic back when my parents hadn't retired, yet they constantly found excuses to visit and freeload, taking advantage in every possible way. They've borrowed hundreds of thousands in bits and pieces and still haven't paid back a single cent to this day. This misunderstanding happens to be the perfect opportunity to let my parents see these people as true colors. At the dinner table, just after the meal, when people hadn't dispersed, yet Julian took out a property purchase contract and tossed it in front of my parents. I know your family urgently needs money. I'm already doing you a favor with this price. Don't push your luck when given face. Seeing the amount of $300,000 written on it, my father finally understood. It turned out Julian's family thought they were selling a house because my job had run into trouble and they needed funds to plug the gap, hence forcing us to sell at a low price. His face turned crimson with anger. All these years, I treated you like a brother, yet you try to take advantage of my misfortune. The uncle curled his lip and said disdainfully, Fortune S. Will Turns, who told you to keep boasting about having such a successful son. My son is far more accomplished than yours now. Some relatives had already searched online about this estate and couldn't help gasping in shock. Oh my, this estate must cost over 200 million. Julian is really loaded. Let me see. Isn't this the property of Grandeur Group? I heard their CEO is Adrian. That billionaire CEO, right? Who knew it was actually our Julian? Just imagine the bragging rights. Julian, already drunk on their flattery, propped his feet on the table with an air of smug superiority. I was afraid of scaring you by saying it, but now that you found out yourselves, I won't hide it anymore. Cousin, do you really think someone as wealthy as me would care about your petty cash? Hurry up and sign the contract. If I'm in a good mood later, I might even arrange some menial job for you, so you can earn money to support your parents. The relatives were already dazzled by the estate, completely bowing to Julian's financial power, and quickly joined in urging my father to sign. My uncle chimed in with his persuasion too. My future daughter-in-law is the mayor's daughter, someone you can't afford to offend. Sell the house quietly, and we can still be one family. A group of people grabbed my father's hand, trying to force him to press it onto the contract. Just as they were about to succeed, the front door suddenly swung open. Brian, the assistant, followed Grace into the room. His expression tightened the moment his eyes swept across the scene. He called for people to pull that group away, wiped the sweat from his forehead, and hurried over to me. President, I'm late. Grace crossed her arms and sneered coldly. I heard I've gained a boyfriend. I'd love to see who's bold enough to claim that title. When the newcomer addressed me as president, the crowd froze in stunned silence. What CEO didn't Adrian lose his job? Exactly, you must have mistaken the person. The real CEO is over here. It's Julian. Assistant Brian ignored the crowd, focusing solely on helping my father into the chair with utmost care, as if handling something extremely fragile. Someone recognized Grace as the girlfriend from Julian's phone wallpaper and asked in confusion, "Has the mayor's daughter really come? What do you mean by that? Could it be you're actually single and Julian has been lying to us?" Grace stepped forward, linking her arm with mine, and declared boldly, "This person has indeed been deceiving you, but I'm not single either. My boyfriend is Adrian." Everyone was stunned by this sudden turn of events, momentarily at a loss for words. Julian, for his part, now didn't dare to look at Grace and only whispered to Assistant Brian, "Assistant Brian, what's going on here?" Beside him, Manager Wu was equally baffled and asked quietly, "Assistant Brian, didn't you ask me to pick up the CEO? Isn't this the person?" I calmly interrupted him. "Bring out a bottle of Chateau Mouton Rothschild from the third row of the wine cellar. My father enjoys this one." Manager Wu's eyes widened as he couldn't help but exclaim, "How did you know where that bottle of red wine was?" Uncle was taken aback, then flushed with anger. "Adrian, what's with this pretentious act of yours? Is this your house that you're already giving orders? And this guy calling you CEO right off the bat, how much did you pay him to play along?" Uncle didn't recognize Assistant Brian, and was clear about what was happening. Seeing Assistant Brian address me as CEO, he thought this was some actor I'd hired to put on a show. Before I could say anything, Grace sneered, "What am I also one of Adrian's hired performers here to put on an act?" Everyone present knew she was the mayor's daughter, so now there were no more doubts about my identity. Julian panicked a little. He called for Assistant Brian several times, but got no response, so he quickly tried to explain himself in a conciliatory tone. "Assistant Brian, I didn't mean to touch the boss's things on purpose. I just thought since it's the new year I'd take my family out for a nice meal." Assistant Brian gave him a cold glance and sneered, "If you want to explain, why not go explain directly to my boss?" He pointed at me and mocked, "Isn't he sitting right there? Go tell him yourself." Julian followed the Assistant Brian's finger and saw me, his tone still carrying a trace of disbelief. "You're saying Adrian, how could he possibly be the CEO? Didn't he go bankrupt and lose his job?" Assistant Brian retorted impatiently, "Who told you the CEO went bankrupt?" Julian flushed red but still refused to believe it. If his family is selling their house to raise money, doesn't that mean his business failed and he is bankrupt? Hearing this, Assistant Brian momentarily didn't know where to begin refuting. The CEO bought his parents a new house. That's why they're selling the old one with his net worth in the billions. Do you really think he lacked that bit of money? Julian looked as if someone had suddenly grabbed him by the throat, rendered completely speechless. Assistant Brian's face darkened as he extended his hand. "Return the car keys." "Julian, you took the CEO's Rolls-Royce without permission and pretended his estate was yours. These actions violate your employment contract. The CEO only arranged this job for you through me as a favor out of kindness to his cousin. Effective immediately, you're fired." The relatives who had been watching the commotion finally realized the truth, that I was the real CEO and Julian had been the one bragging all along. Manager Wu quickly stepped forward to apologize to me. Seeing that he had also been deceived, I simply waved my hand without saying anything. Perhaps sensing that I was easygoing, those relatives immediately crowded around me, switching their flattery to me instead. "I always said Adrian was brilliant at studying since childhood. How could he possibly amount to nothing when he grew up?" "Exactly. I always thought Julian seemed off everywhere. And now it's clear he was just putting on an act." "Adrian, when are you coming to visit your aunt? It's been so many years. I've missed you terribly." The crowd closed in around me so tightly you'd never guess how cold they'd been earlier. I was amazed by how quickly they changed their tune. Catching Brian's assistant I signaled for him to quickly extract me and my parents from the crowd. "I'm sorry, the CEO has urgent matters to attend to and needs to leave now." Seeing my indifference, they then tried to cozy up to my parents. But after witnessing that earlier scene, my parents had already seen through these people's true colors. For once, they stood their ground firmly and walked out the door with me without looking back. Assistant Brian escorted us home and only left after making sure we were settled. I transferred him a substantial overtime payment so he could go home and enjoy the new year properly. Not long after I got home, the doorbell rang again. Thinking Assistant Brian had forgotten something, I opened the door only to find Julian and his family standing there. Julian was rubbing his hands together, his face full of ingratiation. "Cousin, I admit it was wrong of me to brag using your car, and how's I apologize to you. Look, we're family after all. How about you give me a small company to practice managing?" My mother's eyes widened, seemingly shocked by Julian's audacity. One moment, he was bullying us, trying to seize our family property, and the next he had the nerve to ask me for a company. My uncle quickly squeezed in through the door crack. "That's right, sister-in-law. We're family. How can we feel at ease letting outsiders manage our own family's business? Our Julian just lacks an opportunity to prove himself I know Adrian is the CEO, now overseeing more than a dozen companies. Why don't you just assign one to Julian? They spoke as if it were the most natural request in the world, as though my refusal would make me the ungrateful one. I hadn't even spoken yet when Grace, losing patience, coldly cut them off without sparing their dignity. Want the company? Does he even have the capability? If he truly had any ability, he wouldn't have remained a security guard for years without promotion. With Grace shattering his illusions, Julian grew frantic with anger, not daring to vent at Grace. He could only point at my nose and curse. Adrian, you've got some nerve putting on airs now, Haven T. You let me tell you, if you don't give me a share of the company today, you'll regret it later. I said impatiently, if you don't leave now, I'm calling the police. Uncle was furious, but seeing the property management arrive, he didn't dare cause trouble and had to slink away with his family in disgrace. After discussing with my parents, I arranged for them to move directly to the estate and put the house up for sale through an agent. I had planned to take my parents and leave after the new year, but unexpectedly a video related to me suddenly went viral online. In the video, Julian tearfully complained to the camera claiming that Adrian, the renowned billionaire CEO from Highshire, was his cousin. He accused me of being heartless, saying he had worked for me for years only to be fired because he drove my Rolls-Royce. He even claimed that Grace had originally liked him, but I interfered and stole her away. He even threw out some photos, all of them secretly taken by him, when Grace came to the company to see me along with selfies Grace had posted on Weibo. Grace watched him spin his wild tales and nearly laughed in exasperation. Am I blind? Would I ever fall for someone like him? I quickly tried to calm her down, telling her not to waste her anger on such trivial matters. But unexpectedly, before I could decide how to handle it, the news exploded. It went viral after being shared by some influential bloggers, and many people flooded my account to call me heartless, accusing me of being cold-blooded and cruel, even to family. Some even labeled me as a homewrecker, saying I demeddled in someone else's relationship. Sensing something amiss, I asked my assistant Brian to investigate. That's when I realized the rival company, seeing how well I was doing, had secretly contacted Julian to team up and fabricate scandals to tarnish my reputation. Many of those who criticized me were actually paid trolls hired by the rival company. The mess Julian stirred up did cause me significant trouble. Watching the stock prices drop due to the negative publicity, the board of directors came specifically to question me. Meanwhile, my relatives also posted videos one after another accusing me of being cold and indifferent to family. All their previous attempts to flatter me had been met with closed doors. Seeing no benefits to gain from me, they quickly turned to collude with our rival company, spreading fabricated rumors one after another. Even netizens who initially didn't believe them began to waver. Even if what Julian said was false, could all these relatives of his be lying too? To be abandoned by everyone to this extent shows Adrian must have serious character flaws, making so many relatives around him dislike him. I heard Julian thought Adrian was in financial trouble and planning to sell his house, and even prepared to buy it to help his cousin out. There was such a thing. Adrian has gone too far this time. ISNT, this biting the hand that feeds him. Brothers, let us go write complaint letters on the website to report his company. Julian, seeing me become the target of public criticism, called me with smug satisfaction. Cousin, I told you before it's not a good idea to push me too far now that the rival company is backing me. Do you still want to fight me? If you're willing to hand over one of your companies to me now, I might consider changing my tune and telling everyone it was all just a misunderstanding. Oh, and things are different now. I want more than that price. That Rolls-Royce of yours is nice, and that estate too. Hand them over as well. I press the record button with a cold laugh and toss him a remark. If you love dreaming so much, give yourself a good whack. I'd rather throw it all in the water than share a single penny with you. Julian was left speechless by my retort, grinding his teeth in frustration. Fine, don't you dare regret this. The online accusations against me were boiling over. My father accidentally saw them while browsing the internet, argued with a few people, and ended up so angry that his blood pressure spiked, landing him in the hospital. Seeing my father lying in a hospital bed, I completely lost my temper and no longer cared about saving face for them. I closed the hospital room door and called my assistant Brian. Get the PR team here for a meeting. Before the PR department could take action, many of the negative posts about me online had already been deleted. Julian immediately went live claiming I was trying to silence him, afraid he would reveal damaging information about me. Netizens are always easily swayed and prone to rebellion. Seeing the posts criticizing me disappear only made them attack me even more fiercely. Brian's assistant looked troubled as he told me the deleted posts were all orchestrated by rival troll farms. I sneered in response. In that case, we'll go live too. News of my impending live stream spread like wildfire online, with everyone eager to see how I try to talk my way out of this. When the broadcast began, a flood of aggressive viewers stormed into my live channel, their hostility palpable. Julian said he has followed you for so many years, yet you fired him just like that. How do you explain this? I raised an eyebrow and pulled out the audio backup from that year. Back then, his family begged me to find him a job. If it weren't for me, he probably wouldn't even qualify as a security guard now. Hearing this, Julian, who'd been lurking in my live stream, panicked and hastily typed out excuses. What do you mean I owe you? I got into this company entirely on my own merit. What does it have to do with you? He tried to defend himself back then when my dad asked you to help arrange a job for me. You refused outright the job. I have now. I earned it with my own abilities. Hearing him still boasting, I scoffed and displayed his resume and the company's hiring standards in front of the camera. In our company, even security guards require at least a college diploma. Julian only graduated from middle school, yet he was able to become the security team leader as soon as he joined all, because I secretly looked out for him. If I were truly cold-blooded and heartless toward my family, how could I have kept him around? The barrage of hateful comments lessened slightly. I then pulled out several photo albums Grace and I had been together since college, each other as first love. Where did this nonsense about me being a homewrecker come from? Looking at all the group photos, netizens unanimously said they were stuffed with dog food. I knew something was off. How can a normal couple not have a single photo together? Exactly. So many of the photos are super blurry, clearly taken from far away with weird angles. Julian is seriously disgusting. Not only did he steal someone else's car and house to pass them off as his own, but he even tried to steal their girlfriend too. I pulled out a pile of chat records, all documenting how those relatives had borrowed money from my family in the past. My parents were kind-hearted. They didn't even ask for IOUs and simply transferred the money directly. Seeing those loan records, the live stream viewers realized they'd been deceived and started cursing those relatives for lying. Seizing the moment, I played the recording from inside the Rolls-Royce that day. As the conversation echoed through the live stream, the comments grew increasingly furious. No one expected that what Julian called borrowing his cousin's car for a quick drive would turn out to be such a deception. When people heard how he thought my family was short on money and tried to pressure us into selling our house at a low price, netizens finally saw Julian's true character. Someone like him getting fired is letting him off too easy. Now this is what you call biting the hand that feeds you. That as some next level bragging, sneaking out someone else's car to show off as your own, serves him right to get caught. I'm sorry I was fooled by Julian before I really thought he was the victim. Turns out it was a case of biting the hand that feeds. As I released the recording of Julian calling to demand the company, public outrage erupted and Julian was immediately dragged onto the trending list. How can someone be this greedy? No wonder we had to keep it from Julian when helping him find a job. If this kind of person finds out their relatives have made it, they definitely latch on like leeches. How shameless the fact that they're letting it slide out of family consideration should be enough. Yet he has the audacity to push his luck and demand the company. He should take a good look at himself. Does he even deserve it? If I recall correctly, this counts as extortion. Adrian could sue him for this. Seeing public opinion shift, I decided not to hold back this time. The truth has proven that when I give these people face, they only take it as weakness and escalate their outrageous behavior. I hired lawyers instructing them to pursue debt collection based on the chat records while simultaneously filing a lawsuit against Julian. My Rolls-Royce had a hole burned by a cigarette, but the repair alone would cost several $100,000 combined with the online defamation against me and other damages. Julian would have to pay a hefty sum. The rival company's underhanded operations were exposed, faced with reporters' questions that could only scurry away like rats, and their stock price took a significant hit. Just as I was breathing a sigh of relief, the hospital called to inform me that my father had been beaten up by an intruding Julian and had just been admitted to the ICU. I rushed to the hospital only to see Julian pinned to the ground. His eyes bloodshot, he struggled violently and spat fiercely when he saw me arrive. It's all your fault. All I wanted was a company, but not only did you refuse, you even tried to sue me. I just burned a hole in the car seat and you're demanding hundreds of thousands from me. What other ridiculous charges are there? My parents are being forced to sell their house now. Are you satisfied? I stared at him coldly and sneered. Didn't you bring all this upon yourself? When I found out you were secretly using my assets to show off, I only fired you. Did I ever hold you accountable? But instead of being grateful for my mercy, you were insatiably greedy, trying to take even more from me. I shook my head, looking at the disheveled Julian. Did I harm you? No, it was your own greed. The color drained from Julian's face as he finally calmed down. He looked at the police officers restraining him and the bloodstains on the ground, finally realizing what he had done. Immediately, he burst into tears, sobbing uncontrollably. Cousin, I know I was wrong. Please let me go this time. We're family after all. You're a billionaire CEO. Just a little spillover from your hand could set me up for life without lifting a finger. That's why I got tempted. We're family. Don't send me, and I still have parents to take care of. I watched as Julian finally began to feel the creeping fear, and I smirked mockingly. Now you remember, we're family. What about when you thought I was bankrupt and tried to force my parents to sell their house for $300,000? Why didn't you remember that then? You say a little spill from my hands would be enough to keep you in comfort, but why should I just give you money for nothing? Wasn't finding you a cushy, well-paying job enough? Julian, you just hurt my dad a moment ago. how can you have the nerve to say the word family now? Cornered by my barrage of questions, Julian could only turn pale and look helplessly at my mother. Annie, you've watched me grow up since I was little. Please forgive me this time. My mother stepped forward and slapped him hard across the face, shouting angrily, You've known your uncle since you were a child. How could you lay hands on him without remembering his family? Uncle S. family stood by watching the bloodstains on the ground, too ashamed to even utter words of comfort. Wiping their tears, they watched as Julian was escorted into the police car. After this incident, I immediately tightened security at the hospital, fearing that more confused individuals might come looking for trouble. Fortunately, my father wasn't seriously injured and recovered well after just a few days in the ICU. During this time, Grace and I have been staying at the hospital to keep the elderly company worried that their mood might be affected. My father patted my hand and sighed with emotion. Now, I finally see the true colors of these so-called friends and relatives. Give them an inch, and they take a mile. I sighed and comforted him. It's all in the past. Those relatives still wanted to argue with me, trying to play the emotional card to weasel out of repaying the money they owed my family. You're not short a few thousand. Why be so stingy? I was long accustomed to their hypocritical faces, so I simply had my lawyer serve them with a court summons. Seeing I meant business, they didn't dare keep arguing and obediently returned the money. Altogether, it's just a few $100,000, and they were right about one thing: I really don't need that amount of money now. After Grace found out, she suggested I donate all the money to welfare institutions for those truly in need. It was a great idea, and I agreed immediately. Watching me choose charity over giving them the money made those relatives turn green with envy. After my father recovered from his injuries, I took the family to see the seaside home I had bought for them in Sanya. On the day our plane landed, Julian S.'s verdict was announced. The combined charges of defamation and intentional assault resulted in a 15-year sentence. This time, even after my uncle knelt and kowtowed at our doorstep all night, begging, my father refused to agree to a settlement. That evening, he poured himself a drink and shook his head with a sigh. Greed ruins people. Julian's salary wasn't low. If he just worked honestly, he could have lived comfortably. Pity that people can't resist greed. Once greedy, they risk losing even what they originally had. The end.